this. They shed the United States. Now you got Europe. What do we have? Well, we have the United States and Canada and Britain and Germany and England. And what happens? The U.S. is, I mean, look, you had all Eastern Europe. And what's happening there? The Slovakia is like, yes, crazy. We're out of here. Orban in Hungary. Yeah, dudes, we were with you, but you're getting kind of nuts. We're out. Right? Czechoslovakia, they're kind of punching their ticket. Austria, they're kind of looking at the side of their eye like, hey, guys, you're going to fight the bear. I don't know about that. Right? And, so country after countries, like, starting to scratch their heads saying, I was with you guys, but this cult thing's getting a little too far for me, especially the part where we got to go fight Russia. Perhaps maybe we could find a better way to do things, right? The U.S., the biggest of all, led the cult with Biden, and now Trump's in. And let's face it, if we're honest about it, he won in a landslide. It wasn't like he won by a couple of votes. He won, 89% of the counties in the United States shifted closer to Trump. He got more votes than he did in the past. And I think it has to do with war. A lot of it has to do with war. So the bottom line is this. The trend in the United States was towards Trump. And I believe a big part of it, when Trump ran, what did he say? If you elect me, out of that Ukraine war. And I think a lot of people are like, okay. They reluctantly voted for him. I'm not saying you got to love Trump. I'm not saying he's a good president, a good guy, or a bad guy. I'm saying the guy said he was getting out of Ukraine, and he is trying to get out of Ukraine. And I think there's a lot of people voted for him or didn't vote for the Democrats, right? Because they kind of wanted out of that mess. So the U.S. jumped out of the cult. Yeah, guys, we are done. And there's other things. But what do you have now? The true believers. And now they're like totally irrational. Here's a bunch of people. They're like, yes, sir, we're going to now spend $867 billion to build our great military, and then we'll go fight Russia. Russia's military budget's only $100 billion. $100 billion. I would suspect that if you take the defense budget of all across Europe and put them together, it probably right now comes to more than Russia's. So here's the problem they have. It ain't the money. How about this? You don't have hypersonic missiles. Money won't buy hypersonic missiles. You got to have the people that develop them. You don't. Russia does. Have you seen this missile they've got called the Oreshnik? Russia has this missile. It's hypersonic. So this thing goes like 10, 12, 14,000 miles an hour, which means you can't shoot it down. Then, just before it gets to you, it splits into 6 pods of hypersonic missiles. And each one of these has 6 more pods. So this missile fires 36 hypersonic missiles. They're coming at you 10,000 miles an hour. And the ones they fired, now they do have other ones. They can put all kinds of stuff in these missiles. But they have like these metal explosive plasma stuff in it that gets like 4,000 degrees, and it hits, and it can go like really deep in the ground. And of course, because it's 4,000 degrees, like literally the temperature of the sun, it just like vaporizes things to its basic elements. Okay, I'm just saying, I'm not a technical guy. I'm not Andrei Martyanov. He understands that stuff. I don't. I'm just saying, you don't have those. You don't have decent fighters. Oh, might I add, you're out of everything. Everything that you had, you've already sent it to Ukraine, and Russia's already blew the hell out of it. So what good is $867 billion if you had it, which you don't, going to do you, Europe, if you don't have the technology of Russia? By the way, I don't know if you figured this, if the Europeans have figured this out. Perhaps they have, perhaps they haven't thought about it. Russia is not static. They are continuing to develop new technology. So you're going to so-called get together $867 billion, which you don't have. And then you're going to start where you are now, which is virtually nothing. We got nothing. So you got to build everything from the ground. We got to build tanks, and guns, and whatever, right? Okay, so you got to build your basic stuff. Then, after you get enough tanks and armored personnel carriers and all those things that Russia's going to blow to hell on day one, which they would if you attack them, then you're going to have, you don't really have much in the way of nukes. which ain't going to do you any good because Russia would turn you into a parking lot if you threw nukes at them. So that ain't going to get you there. Might I add, the air defense systems, you're going to have to develop those. And Russia already is 3 generations ahead of you on air defense, which means by the time you try to get where they are, which you won't, they'll be 3 more generations ahead of you, and you're still done. So you're starting off with 2 arms tied behind your back. You don't have, but let me add one other thing. You're going to need to get energy from Russia in order to build these great factories, to build all the stuff to fight Russia. And I don't think they're going to cooperate. Where are you going to get all the metal, the steel, all the things you need? You don't have any of that. You don't have industry. You got nothing. You don't have the money. And what's going to happen? You're going to have to cut all the social programs. So you're going to say to the people, bad news for you. But of course, as we already know, you don't get a say, people. Here's what we're going to do. We're cutting your pensions, number 1. Healthcare, yeah, that's a roads, can't really afford them right now. Food, yeah, you guys wander around and graze or something. All the things that you're accustomed to having a regular life, you ain't having it no more. Why? Why is that? You might ask why. Why is your life as a European going to be a living hell? Why is it that if you're in the streets of Paris, you will never see another baguette or a beret as long as you live? You'll be nibbling on friggin' grass on the side of the road. Why are you going to a life of utter and complete disastrous hell? Because we want to go to war with the Russians. I suspect the French Revolution and lots of other revolutions are ahead. Revolution is in the air, brother. Revolution is in the air. I suspect that if you do that, I don't know, you're going to have to Georgescu your vote every time. Because let's face it, the people that are going to win ain't going to do that. Now, how many years is it going to take you? They're like, yes, we'll be ready by 2035. Yeah, what do you think the Russians are going to sit around looking at their clocks? Hey, what are you doing between now and 2035? Nothing. Just waiting for Europe to catch up with us militarily so they can attack us, kill us, and take all of our stuff. You think they're really going to sit around and do that? Or do you think perhaps if you started this gigantic military buildup that Russia wouldn't also do a military buildup, except they can do it and you can't? Now, you ain't going to have nothing to eat normally, meanwhile. And if you start this military buildup, they're cutting off everything. You still buy a lot of stuff from Russia. You still got Turk Stream going on. You're still getting gas. If you're building up for Russia, they ain't selling you nothing. They're not going to give you the knife you're going to use to plunge into their thorax. That ain't happening. So these people are deranged. You've got a deranged cult in the ruling elite. No wonder they had World War One, Britain, France, Germany. World War II. Who is at the center? Britain, France, Germany. It's always those 3 bastards. It's always the leadership of those 3 countries that's up to no good. The Crimean War, yeah, they attacked Russia. Hey, how about Napoleon attacked Russia? They're always France, Britain, Germany. They always got a beef with Russia. Russia's just trying to eat, man. They're just trying to live. And these lunatics, and now they're at war. Think about this. These ruling elite in France, as an example. Britain, France, Germany. Annalena Baerbock, I don't give a crap what the German people say. This is what we're doing. Keir Starmer, God knows we won't even talk about that clown. And of course, Macron, Mr. Rothschild banker. Literally, he worked for Rothschild Bank, former Goldman Sachs, a banker. I'm sure you can trust this guy. They're at war with their own people. They are. They're like, our people don't get a say. We're making decisions and we're not going to listen to the voters. Okay. They're at war with Russia. Russia is evil and they must be stopped because they're fascists and they're doing bad things. Okay. So you're at war with your own people. You're at war with Russia. Anybody else? Trump and the United States are now our enemies. Okay. You're at war with Trump and the United States. You're at war with your own people. You're at war with Russia. Anybody else? Oh, yes. The global South. Why? They want peace with Russia also. And so does China. So let's think about this. The ruling elite in Germany, Britain, the usual criminals, ruling elite, Germany, Britain, France. They're at war with their own people because their own people are just trying to eat and feed their families. and they got to flood them with propaganda to keep them on their side. They are at war with the United States because of something about Trump, and perhaps this is the madness. The United States wants to get out of the war. So they've got to be at war with people. You got to at war with the Germans, with the Russians, because the Russians are saying, "Hey, we'd like a peaceful diplomatic resolution." You got to be at war with the U.S. because, like the Russians, they're trying to work on a peaceful resolution. So you're at war with the people who want a peaceful resolution to the current conflict. China, well, why not? I mean, let's face it, they're Chinese, so you got to be at war with them. Clearly, Lita Baerbock goes over there, preaches to the Chinese, you better do what we tell you to do. The Brits are like the Chinese are one of the greatest threats to us of all time. And why? Because Biden told them to say that, and now it's ingrained into their mind, so China's got to be evil, right? Global South, where they're just brown, yellow, or whatever, Latin American people, certainly they look. They got to give. They don't even want to give up their natural resources anymore and be colonies, for God's sake. The West Africans kicking the French out. Now their own people are a bunch of right-wing lunatics, right? Because like perhaps people in France and Britain and Germany are like, yeah, I don't know, the immigration's a little heavy here, guys. I mean, we're okay with a few people, but for God's sake, there ain't no Frenchmen left in France. Now, the liberal will automatically say that's racism. That's absolute racism. I'm not going to say that there isn't an element of racism in the anti-immigrant. Sure, that element probably exists. But to just arbitrarily say that every French person who says, we got baguettes, we got berets. There's a lot of people moving here. They're not necessarily the baguettes and berets, which means our culture won't be the same. You got certain amount of German people that are like, we got schnitzel. Yeah, people going to eat a schnitzel. Perhaps we won't be the same Germany. We're schnitzel eating bastards. And we got schnitzel, for God's sake. We're just trying to eat that schnitzel. Does that make you a racist if you just want to keep schnitzel, maybe some baguettes or whatever, and some wine on a beautiful Sunday afternoon in Paris? I ain't saying there ain't some people that are anti-immigrants that aren't racist, but it is not fair to say that every person who, and the entire movement that says, I got a problem with immigration, number one, there are valid claims about immigration driving down labor. They're valid claims. So I'm not going to say that. But the ruling elite, of course, will not admit that the foundation of the immigration problems that they have are that colonialism and imperialism. They go to country X, they go to region X, they blow the hell out of it, they overthrow the governments, they steal the resources, people are poor, and people look for some place that ain't poor when they're poor. And they're like, hey, you blew my country up, and you screwed it all up, and then we got no food. I know, I'm coming back to your country. That's what that's all about. That's a big part of it. Let me give you an example. Donald Trump is sure to exacerbate the immigration problem. He stopped it. He's doing quite well, to be frank, with the immigration project for now. But let me tell you something. The immigration issue. We've got to deal with Venezuela. If this guy, which I suspect he will, tries to crack down on the Monroe Doctrine, we're coming down on Nicaragua, Venezuela, whoever, Haiti, blah, blah, blah. If he acts in a way that destabilizes those countries on our southern border, you will have refugees. They will become destabilized from more sanctions. They will become more impoverished, and they will come right across